Well, hi everyone. Welcome to the Strathcona Accessibility and Inclusion Advisory Committee meeting. I'm confirming that we have quorum with the folks who are in the room and online. My name is Anne Marie Long. I'm just acting as chair because our regular chair is not here. So we'll call to order the meeting. And we just want to acknowledge that we're meeting on the traditional ancestral territories of the Likwita people, specifically Weewakai and Weewakam in this area. And can we get a motion to adopt the agenda?
Cindy Rogers.
Cindy, and a second?
Oh, we've got Christine.
Oh, Christine, I'm not good at managing online as well. I'll try. Thanks, Christine.
I'll try to keep you in order as well.
Okay, excellent. And all in favor?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, you sure can.
On the agenda, there was, is this when we're talking about adopting this agenda, so all the items on that we're going to adopt is what you're suggesting?
Yeah, that's the focus of the meeting today.
Okay, so I guess the question I have is, there was a comment made in the agenda about education with blindness. And there was talk about how it's inappropriate to grab someone's elbow. I'm not sure where that came from. I did do a presentation for Rotary a little while ago, and I'm thinking someone saw that and it made it on the agenda. But as far as being on the agenda, I have a couple other items that I think are far more important than maybe appropriate or proper etiquette with a blind person. So one of the items would be bus stop at the bottom of York Road. It's on the highway.
Right. So
It's not safe to access.
I think you may be referring to the minutes of the last meeting as
Okay,
opposed to the agenda of this one.
okay.
Do you want me to read out the agenda to you?
Sure, because obviously when I looked at it with my technology, I've missed something there.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
Sorry for the delay.
It's totally fine. We want to be accessible. So this is the one that says notice of meeting, Monday, October 7th at the top, the agenda, A, confirmation of quorum, which we've just done, B, call to order, C, First Nations territorial acknowledgement, D, adoption of the public agenda, which is where we are now. And then the agenda has E, presentations, F, adoption of minutes, G, business arising from the minutes, H, reports, so an application to Spark BC for accessibility training, and 2025 meeting schedule, and then I, correspondence. The Village of Gold River has a local community accessibility grant, and BC Accessibility Act webinars are both on offer. And then J is termination. Does that sound good, Steve and everyone? Okay, so we'll go back to the motion to adopt the agenda. We had a first and a seconder, so all in favor, if you can raise your hand if you're in favor of the agenda. And people, the unverified and external folks online, I'm assuming aren't voting because, oh wait, there we are. Okay, so we've got, it looks like all in favor, except I haven't seen a hand from Lisa or Andy.
Andy's not a member.
Not a meeting, okay, okay. Then we'll say that's passed and move on. So we'll move to E, presentations. And there aren't any, okay. F, adoption of minutes, and this may be where you were referring to the notes about blindness. So these are April 4th, 2024, be adopted as presented. And the minutes there, would it be helpful if I read these out or summarize them, Steve?
Sure.
Okay, so a listing of the members. There was conversation about removing our city or electoral village designations after our names in the minutes so that it doesn't seem like we're representing the place where we live. And that was just a discussion that happened before the meeting, but just to have it on the record. Again, a First Nations territorial acknowledgement, adoption of the agenda, adoption of the minutes from the previous meeting. There was a report from the Chief Administrative Officer on the revised Strathcona Accessibility Plan that was received. The committee voted to not endorse the accessibility plan, so that motion was defeated. And then the following changes were made. Amend the first sentence on page 22 to be written as Vancouver Island West School District 84 is developing an accessibility playground at Captain Mears Elementary Secondary School. And that the motion be amended to include page 14, barrier identification exercise. Included the following disclaimer: this is not a comprehensive list. Page 17, add the following after the title: the committee has not fact-checked or endorsed the community partner submissions. And page 24, add bullet number 8 as follows: expand our framework to go beyond the categories that the BC government has identified for future standards development. The vote was held on the amended motion and it was carried. There was also a report received from the Disability Alliance BC training, and then the meeting was terminated. I'm actually not seeing the specific comments on blindness in that as well, but maybe those are in the plan?
Yes, those are in the barrier identification exercise that we did as a group, and then had other submissions on there. So somebody else must have submitted that.
Okay.
Or sorry, like it wasn't at this meeting
Right.
that we talked.
Okay. So those are the minutes. Can I get any discussion or a motion to approve them first? People online, feel free to stick up your hand if you want to approve a motion. Okay, Christine, and a seconder. Lisa? Okay, any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, we'll move, go ahead, Steve.
Can I bring up my points that I was going to that I thought were sort of got missed? Or is this not the appropriate time? I'm just a little bit lost here.
Yeah, I'm just wondering,
No, it isn't Mr. Rising from the minutes, so is that not?
But they weren't from the minutes, but they were an additional barrier that was identified.
Yeah.
So, if your items are barriers that you would like to be addressed and have included in our barrier identification list, we can add to the agenda, or we can chat about them after to make sure that they're included in our barriers to be reviewed and acted upon.
Could I just add it? Could I just add it?
Yeah.
Add to it right now?
we can add an agenda item if we can amend our agenda to include barriers, feedback or additions
Yeah.
as a number. Oh, I've got letters.
I think what would be most appropriate is if it's not in the minutes, then we wouldn't actually be amending the minutes because the minutes are as they are. So
Yeah.
I don't see that listed in the minutes. If we want to move forward past the minutes and then go back to adding an item to the agenda, we can do that.
Okay, so just a minute, we'll get through the minutes and then we'll amend the agenda to add the barriers.
Okay, so you
Sounds
just
good.
let me know then.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so based on the minutes, are there any discussion of the minutes as circulated? Okay, so we'll vote on our motion to adopt the meeting. All in favor, put your hand up. Seeing 2 online, 3 online. Folks in the room.
Yep.
We have a majority to pass. Not everyone has voted, but, okay. All right, so then, any business arising from those minutes?
We're going to go back to adoption of the public agenda.
Oh, okay, adoption of the public
I'm
agenda.
going to add Steve's issues.
Okay, so let's add maybe after business arising from the minutes, just so the adoption of the minutes and the minutes discussion can be together, or should we add the barriers in first?
That's fine.
Okay, all right, so we'll do business arising from the minutes, just for continuity, and then we'll add, between G and H, we'll add a discussion about barriers. Do we have to move to amend the agenda?
No, so you can ask if there's any business arising from the minutes.
Okay. So is there any business arising from the minutes?
Brenda has her hand up.
Brenda, sorry.
So, hi, everyone.
Hi.
Sorry, just with regard to adding that item about talking about barriers, I just wanted within that conversation to talk about how those barriers are communicated to communities that are the partner organizations. I sort of had an offline chat with Renee about that, but I thought it would be worth bringing that into the conversation. And then also the piece about how do we, I see Gold River has an application in for a grant, but maybe if we can also within that barrier conversation, if we can stretch it out and talk about how those reporting of those barriers to partner organizations can then turn into a project and a grant application. I think it's all kind of related, but someone can tell me if it's not.
That seems fine to me.
Okay.
And I'm getting nods from the people who know what they're doing.
Okay.
Awesome, thanks, Brenda. Anything else folks want to add? Okay, seeing no further discussion, business arising from the minutes, let's move to the barriers discussion. And Steve, do you want to go first?
Yes, thank you. So some of the immediate barriers that I see are accessibility to a bus stop. And one in particular that I've identified was on the Island Highway at the bottom of York Road. We've got a whole neighborhood there, and there's no safe place to cross the highway to head north. There's a blind hill to the south. There's a blind corner to the north. For a person like myself, low vision or blind, there's no possible safe way to access that, let alone any child.
Yeah.
So some food for thought, Craig Road is 1 block west. And I think it would be perhaps a better choice to have a bus stop on Craig Road versus the main freeway. More accessible to the actual neighborhood itself. And then one of the other barriers is I've noticed as I walk around the community, brushing out around the lights, the standards where the walk signals are.
Yeah.
Some of those places, in particular, Hilchey and Alder, are growing in around that. So when you're looking for, trying to find this post, you're kind of beating the brush around to find
Whacking.
the button.
Yeah.
And my final thought would be also the in any further infrastructure, just some consideration on I think I talked about there's a button that vibrates. I've noticed it on some of the light standards, but not all, getting some consistency and maybe taking that into consideration for future infrastructure projects. The audio is not ideal. There are people that are blind and deaf. And there's also, if there's loud traffic, it's really hard to get an audio cue. So if you have another sense, such as touching a button that vibrates to let you know it's safe to cross, this is just another sense. We're not just relying on our ears to cross that street. And those are the three that I feel are quite important at this point in time. The education around taking, etiquette, handling a blind person, well, that's a pretty big feat to try and educate the world.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your additions.
Okay, and maybe I can use this opportunity to address some of Brenda's questions while at the same time responding to Steve's additions to the barrier identification. So Steve, what'll happen now is I will add those to our spreadsheet. And that spreadsheet includes all the barriers that were identified by this group in October and that we've been adding to, as well as any submissions that we've received online. And then regularly, I guess quarterly, most likely, I meet with the partner organizations and we review those barriers, and they get sent to each of the municipalities, and then we talk about which ones we can work on collectively. And so that's how they're shared through the representatives from each municipality that are staff members. So that's how that process works. And then we will report back. So at our January meeting, we talked that each municipality would report back on the actions that they've done to address those barriers. So that's the process, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in the grant application that I've got as a report later on.
Oh, great, thank you. Brenda, was there more you wanted to talk about in terms of reporting project grant applications, exactly, et cetera? You talked about how the reports of the barriers could lead into actionable items.
Yeah, thanks, Anne Marie. I guess for transparency, I just wonder how we could be also looped in. I think for the most part in my community, I might be the one that's doing most of the reporting on behalf of other people as well. When I talk to people and hear things, because that's just, how it works sometimes. We don't have necessarily a very digital literate community, digitally literate. Can I say that? And yeah, so I guess I'd like to be looped in. I'm also a counselor now. Since I last saw everybody in Tassus, I was elected in a by-election. And so I haven't seen anything, come forward. And so I think it's important somehow this process includes, the boards of education, municipalities, the counselors on those municipalities, part of hearing about these barriers beyond just if it's just the CAO who learns about it is partly education. People need to hear that these barriers exist in their communities. So I guess I wonder if there's an opportunity to loop us in for one, so we can see what's been reported and what hasn't as sort of advocates in our communities. And also if, there's some processes that we could put forward, perhaps it's something we could collectively talk about as making a motion for that process to make it more impactful, I think, more transparent. Thank you.
Did I pass it over to you?
Sure, I guess in terms of process, the SRD wouldn't necessarily put things on other council agendas. So that's where, I guess, through your CAO, you can talk to them and ask for those information or have a standing item on the agenda in your municipality or at the school district or with Vancouver Island Regional Library, that they would have their own process. They have access to the information, and as staff members, we meet regularly. So I think, yeah, internally, the information is available, and each community would have kind of their own, an organization would have their process on how they would like to do that. But we can collectively, like, I'll add this to an agenda with the partners, and so that we can maybe come back at our next meeting and collectively, we can decide if people want, or taking it to their boards once a month, or once a quarter, once a year, whatever those processes might look like for each individual organization.
And from my understanding of what you said a moment ago, our January meeting will be a place where those items will be brought in for discussion, and we can see what progress, if any, have been made on them.
Yep.
So that's also a place for follow-up. Anything else? Oh, go ahead.
So I just want to clarify the process, the complaints that have been made, where are they? What's happening with them? And you're telling me that nothing is going to get done, we're just going to discuss them in January?
No, so the barriers that get identified, they get entered into a spreadsheet. We circulate them to the staff members that are part of the process. And then those organizations decide how to handle the ones that, are specific to them. And collectively, we work on some of the other initiatives. And the report that I have before you today is one of those items on how we're moving forward and addressing some of the issues.
Okay, can you please so somebody makes a report on the SRD website, then what happens? You tabulate those for a couple months and leave them till No,
I don't leave them till January. So the one would come in, and then it would be shared with the partner organizations, and then it would be addressed. If it was of, I would say critically urgent, like there was a snow barrier or something like that, it would be sent to that municipality right away. Or if it was a phone call in, otherwise it would be part of this process where we're reviewing and trying to address them.
So for clarification, again, the complaints or the public that's drawn attention to the issues of the school, you have sent those to the school division?
As through our partner meetings, yes, and they have access to those, the barriers that are identified that impact them. There has been some turnover with the staff member that was that we were in contact with. So that might be why it hasn't been on your agenda.
I wonder if there's some clarification needed with who are the partners, because maybe it's not being understood that they're actually from the organizations that everybody's representing.
Sure. So just to remind everybody that the CAOs from the municipalities, as well as in the smaller organizations, represent the villages. So the village of Gold River, village of Tassus, and village of Sayward. And then Andy, you can correct me if I have your wrong title, the Director of Planning Services with the City of Campbell River is one of the partners. We have representative, the HR representative from School District 84, and a representative from Vancouver Island Regional Library, as well as myself, collectively get together to review those barriers.
When have you gotten together to review those barriers?
We reviewed them in June, and then we had another meeting in August to talk about our grant application.
Thank you. Any other discussion? I think one thing, Brenda, you had mentioned is how are the communities being aware that that reporting mechanism exists on the website so folks know where to report?
Yeah, that would be one piece. Yeah, it's also just like, I don't know, it does feel like a really, I mean, I know we're just in an advisory role, but it's really difficult because we don't, like, it would be really nice if we could see the list as well. And then, like we don't even know if the partner organizations are, always showing up for those meetings, or who the person is that's showing up, or, like there's a real, I mean, I talked to our partner person and they didn't know I was trying to influence, putting forward a grant application, and they were not aware of the process to do that. I'm glad Gold River is moving forward with something. I guess it just feels disconnected. It feels like we're being kept really at arm's length, and I understand that, but it's also it doesn't feel collaborative and very, it just feels like we're not going to get moving on things very easily if we're so disjointed from the process or removed from the process. I don't know how to move forward, and I'm a strong advocate, and I'm like, how do I take the barriers and have an application put together? I don't like it. It feels awkward for sure.
Okay, yeah, in most circumstances, it would be staff that would be moving forward an application. What I can do is make that barrier identification list publicly available. Like, we need to remove, some personal information, and just keep that as kind of a running list or, available for this committee. It won't show necessarily the actions until we report on those actions, but somehow we can make it more collaborative so that you would see updates on there as they would be made. This is it's to do such a collaborative regional group where we've got many municipalities, school district, and a regional library, and an advisory committee. This is, new, so it is going to take us a bit to get into a groove on reporting and, information sharing.
I'm curious, how many reports have you had since the website went live?
I'm also noticing Christine has her hand up, so I'll get to you, Christine, after that question's answered.
Okay, well, total there's about 55 barriers, and I think the majority of them came from this group when we did our work last October, and then we've probably had 8 to 10 submissions or phone calls in to identify barriers.
Okay. Christine?
Thank you. Renee, that was really helpful. I would like to reiterate also what Brenda said. I completely agree that I think we need to be involved in the reviewing process, in the reviewing process of those. So I'd very much appreciate that, Renee. I did want to ask too, I know that for the SRD, there is an online link that you can access. Is that still available? And I know that it was advertised on Facebook and like different places. Will that be run again? And are the other partners doing the same sorts of things as we are? Thank you.
Yes, the barrier feedback mechanism, I think is what we call it, is available on everyone's website, and it directly links you to the SRD website to complete the form. The phone number, I believe, comes to the SRD, and we accept the phone calls here.
Do you know if that's advertised, Renee?
We did.
I believe we did, but.
Yeah, sorry, we did do a social media push in May regarding that, and when the accessibility plan was released, but we could do some ongoing, social media posts about that as well.
Yeah, I was just thinking maybe possibly a follow-up. I don't know what your success rate was for the post and the push, but that may be an idea.
Actually, we did get a couple, and we track our stats, and we did get a few in line with the campaign that we did.
I imagine that considering doing it seasonally would be a good idea, because at least for the built environments, if there's snow, if there's a big puddle, because the grates are covered with leaves, whatever the case may be, if there's ice, there may be different needs in different seasons. So my suggestion is perhaps we do it, once a quarter. Anything else people wanted to share on the barriers discussion? Brenda?
I guess another piece, I think it's sort of in line, is just I'm thinking about what opportunities we also have, like in terms of gathering and reporting, to sort of give, feedback to, like more about like processes. So for an example, I think everyone knew I went through this thing where I ended up advocating to the board of education about this accessible playground. And it was honestly really frustrating. I had to go in person to Gold River, and it was an ongoing thing. At the end of the day, I managed to get some consultation, but ideally, we don't all have to like push at in every instance for consultation. So I guess I wonder through this as well, what reporting and recommendations, like, it feels like if we could put together recommendations as we go, so that we could put some recommendations to municipalities, some recommendations maybe to the province, suggesting processes, areas where they could, this particular case, I ended up talking to the guy in Victoria who delivers the grants for playgrounds, and he had heard the same thing a lot, that, at the end of the day, the playgrounds don't end up being accessible, even though they're meant to be, and that's what the money's directed to. So he worked with me to create a bit of a blurb that goes out to the goes out to the school districts when they get their funding, about creating a consultation within the school environment to get some input as you're building your, as you're designing. But, this is going to be a constant thing where we're going to watch barriers be built in communities, because yes, we exist, and yes, we're giving feedback about barriers, but barriers that already exist. So if we don't have any impact on new projects, like in Cumberland, we used to have new projects in Cumberland come before us for our eyes to give them not necessarily super professional, but lived experience, insight into how they could make their building more accessible, or whatever it was that was being brought in front of us. So I guess I'm just thinking about those pieces as well, how we can impact projects that are being built in our communities, and how that relates to this advisory group.
So is
Sorry, it's a big
is there a
question.
way to get in front of the process rather than reacting after something's built? Do you want to respond to that?
We've got the CAO.
Oh, sorry. CAO Sayward, sorry, I don't know your name, but hi.
Hi, my name is John. Nice to meet everyone. I'm new in Sayward. And yes, I'm drinking from the fire hydrant, but we're going in the right direction.
Yeah.
Setting that aside for a moment, I was just curious, is there a term of reference for this committee? Many of the questions I'm hearing is probably going to be answered or guided at least throughout that document.
Yes, there is.
Can we have a copy, please? Oh,
Yes.
certainly myself, thanks.
For sure. I'll make sure you have all the documents that refer to this committee.
Thanks, John. Welcome to the committee. Anything else from the barriers discussion? Okay, seeing no more hands, let's move on to H, reports. The first one is application to Spark BC for accessibility training. Oh, sorry. I'm learning how to chair as I go. So the motion is that the report from the Chief Administrative Officer be received. Do I do these one at a time?
Yeah, mover and second.
Okay. Can I get someone to move and second A? That the report from the Chief Administrative Officer be received. Christine has a hand up and a second. Cindy down at the end?
Any discussion?
Okay. And then I will pass it on for discussion.
All right. So as we've been talking through the barrier identification exercise that we completed in 2023 and the subsequent ones that were handed in, through the feedback mechanisms, the partner organizations met in June to review the barriers that we could address collectively. And what we observed was attitudinal barriers made up more than 30% of the identified barriers. And to address these attitudinal barriers, a training and awareness project is proposed. The project would develop a foundational training and awareness program for staff and elected officials from all of the Strathcona Accessibility Plan partnering organizations. The project would improve public servants' knowledge of disabilities and the barriers those with disabilities are experiencing in the Strathcona region. So the proposed program would be delivered as an on-demand e-learning format, focusing on building a deeper understanding of the diverse needs of the people and disabilities in the Strathcona region. It would cover essential accessibility concepts, definitions, obligations of public organizations with a focus on the Strathcona Accessibility Plan. Upon completion of training, staff will be equipped to reflect on their own attitudes and biases and help to identify and remove barriers. So I think a lot of what we're talking about today is education and awareness, and how if people are more aware, you're going to jump ahead of some of the barriers in planning projects. The training program would be available for all staff and elected officials and then be incorporated into the onboarding process for new staff. It has the potential to impact more than 500 people who work in the region as public servants and elected officials. This project aligns well with the Social Planning and Research Council of BC, Spark BC accessibility grants, and provides an opportunity for the partners to work collectively on a project that addresses many of the identified barriers. The grant program's designed to support persons with disabilities by funding the removal of barriers identified by local accessibility committees. And the Strathcona Regional District, on behalf of the partner organizations, will apply for the funding and manage the project. Spark grant applications require the support of the Accessibility Committee and a letter of support from the committee for the application to be considered. Now, the course curriculum would be developed by experienced course developers from the disability community, and committee members, if interested, could provide their feedback and perspectives as a video vignette in the course. And if there were any specific members that would like to participate in reviewing the curriculum once we've got it developed, please let me know. And yeah, if the project's approved here, then yeah, we could do some outreach and work individually with those people who might be interested.
Great, thank you. Any discussion? So not seeing any discussion, I move on to B. Okay.
You can call the question.
I'll call the question that I read it out.
No, it's basically that, so this has been moved and seconded.
That's moved and seconded,
so we
okay.
just need to know.
Okay, so we need a vote on receiving the report from the Chief Administrative Officer. We have a motion. All in favor? You can put your hand up. Three, I'm seeing 3 online and everybody in the room. 4 online. Oh, yeah, Lisa popped in there too. Okay, that's accepted. And then B, that the Strathcona Accessibility and Inclusion Advisory Committee recommend that an application be submitted for a $25,000 grant to the Spark BC Local Community Accessibility Grant to develop an accessibility education and awareness program. So can someone move? Oh, Brenda? Any discussion?
Seeing none?
Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Raise your hand. Seeing 2 online, 3 online, 4 online, and 3 in the room in favor. Okay, moving on then. 2025 meeting schedule. First, we need a motion that the report from the Chief Administrative Officer be received. Cindy and Steve in the room, first and seconding that. And then discussion. Is there anything on this?
Yeah, sorry. Yes, the report before you was to discuss our schedule for 2025. When we first originally met, the feedback that we received from the committee was let's do it do meetings as needed. And I would really like to keep the momentum going and have quarterly, or recommend that quarterly meetings be scheduled, just to avoid conflicts with partner organization meetings and the meeting rooms that we have. So if we could just create a calendar of meeting dates. And staff proposed that meeting dates be held quarterly in January, April, July, and October, with the option to hold additional meetings for time-sensitive matters if needed. And with our other committees, the SRD board and the committees typically approve their meeting schedules in November or January of each year. And if there's sufficient interest, we'd like to bring forward a schedule for our January meeting for approval.
Any further discussion on that? Seeing none, do we vote on that one and then read out B? Okay, so vote that the report from the Chief Administrative Officer on the 2025 meeting schedule gets received. All in favor? 4 in the room, 1, 2, 3, 4 online. And then B, I need a move and seconder that a further report be prepared for the January 2025 meeting regarding a 2025 meeting schedule for the Strathcona Accessibility and Inclusion Advisory Committee. So moved. Sorry, I forgot your name. Kim, thank you. I can't read name tags that far along. And can we get a seconder for that motion? Lisa? Any discussion? Okay, we'll call that to a vote. All in favor, raise your hand. 4 in the room. 1, 2, 3. 3 online, 4 online. Okay, that's passed, thank you. And then correspondence, moving on to the next item. The Local Community Accessibility Grant, Village of Gold River. So we need to make a motion to approve that the September 18th, 2024 correspondence from the Village of Gold River regarding a letter of support for its local community accessibility grant application be received. I get a mover and a seconder for that. Steve and Christine, thank you.
Chelsea from the village is online if anybody has questions.
So that comment was just that Chelsea of the Village of Gold River is online if we have any questions. So we'll open that for discussion.
I just wanted, sorry, it's Christine. I just wanted to comment that I love what you're doing, Chelsea. That's great up there. I saw the plan and I was happy.
Thank you.
Awesome. Chelsea, is there anything you want to share with us?
I don't think so. I think the information is all in the letter. Yeah, basically, we're looking at improving accessibility in all of our facilities to the best of the best that we can. Of course, this Spark grant application is open and open for ongoing intake. And it was identified that we have the opportunity to improve one of our doors at the Ann Fiddick Aquatic Center. And so we're hopeful that we will receive a letter of support from the committee so we can move forward with this project as soon as possible.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Yes, it's Susan Sinnott here.
Go ahead, Susan.
Hi, thank you. And sorry about being late. I just returned from Tokyo and all the various traveling, and so I'm a little bit off on my schedule. I just didn't know if all we need to do is do it from the accessibility committee. I'll do the follow-up motion, but do you need it also to be referenced back to the SRD generally, like for the Wednesday meeting? Like, do you need 2 letters of support, or is just our committee sufficient?
The grant application indicates just a letter from the accessibility committee for the application.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, can we get a mover and a seconder?
Got that.
Oh, we've already got that. Can we get a call on the vote? Sorry. All in favor, hands up. Seeing 4 in the room, 1, 2, 3 online.
To make a motion on that. There's an action in the letter here. This is the letter that they've submitted onto the agenda that requires letter of support, so we need a mover and a seconder for that.
Okay, so the application requires a letter of support from the local accessibility committee. I'm reading from the letter from the Village of Gold River to the committee. We would appreciate your support in this project, so we need to move to write a letter of support.
Yeah, I'll make the motion that the
Thank you.
Strathcona Accessibility and Inclusion Advisory Committee send a letter of support for the Village of Gold River's grant application, and it be signed by the chair or acting chair as soon as they're available to be signed by the chair.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder for Susan's motion? Steve, I saw your hand first. Okay. Should we call the motion? Is there any other discussion? Okay, let's have a vote on Susan's motion to submit the letter. There are 4 hands up in the room, 1, 2, 3 hands up, 4 hands up online. Thank you. Okay, 2 BC Accessibility Act webinar.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, Anne Marie, before we go on, I just wondered if I could just ask for process, like before Chelsea leaves, just to understand how that came to be, because like it's not a fluid thing in our village. So how it came to be that barrier was reported and that Chelsea is here now asking us for a letter. Like, I just want so that it's for all the rest of us to understand how it could work well to get to the point where we're doing a grant application, because that would be helpful for me anyway, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So in my case, it's actually worked backwards. I uncovered this grant opportunity and then went to the director of operations and said, you know, there's this opportunity available. Do we have any barriers to accessibility in any of our facilities? And he was able to tell me, yes, there is this one, and this is what we could address with the money available. So in my case, I didn't identify the barrier first. Director of Operations was aware, and I found the funding to then fill that need.
Okay, I'm curious, was any of that through our committee process? Like, was it a barrier that was identified through the portal that was reported back to the community through Strathcona Regional District?
I'm not sure. Unfortunately, I don't have the details on how that came to be.
Okay, no worries. Thank you, though.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to BC Accessibility Act webinar. We need a motion that the October 1st, 2024 correspondence from the Disability Alliance BC regarding a webinar opportunity on Part 3 of the Accessible BC Act be received. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Kim and Steve? And any discussion? Not seeing any discussion in the room or online.
Yeah, it was just for
It's just a point of information. So then we can can we vote on that motion to accept that correspondence? All in favor, put your hand up. Got 4 in the room, 1, 2, 3 online. Okay. And then the last part of our agenda is termination. We just need a motion that the October 7th, 2024 meeting of the Strathcona Accessibility and Inclusion Advisory Committee be terminated. Someone want to put together a motion to end our meeting? Christine and Lisa. Any discussion?
I was wondering if I could do a presentation at our next meeting on neurodiversity in the workplace. It's about an hour.
Well, I guess let's submit to, I don't know how to, okay. Sorry, I was just going to say, our next meeting, we were doing the reporting back. So I think it's up to the committee about the length of the meeting, and that's just a reminder also to anybody in between meetings, feel free to send along agenda items, and then whoever's chairing the meeting, we go over those agenda items. So we can definitely put that on the list, and depending on timing, I can let you know.
Thank you.
That's a great reminder about how to get things on the agenda too. Thank you. Any other discussion? All right, seeing none, let's vote on the motion to terminate today's meeting. All in favor? 4 hands in the room, 1, 2, 3, 4 hands online. Thank you, everyone. The meeting is terminated at 1:53.
Thank you.